That's the other part of religion. It's like
Yeah.
God is a big part, but people are the other part.
I just, man, look.
Let's get started. Okay. My name is the Heathen Radio. My name is Andrew. I'm 34 years old. I'm a member of the Mount Pisgah Seventh-day Adventist Church in Miami Gardens, Florida. I'm here with my co-host Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Matt, Heathen Radio.
Heathen Radio.
You good
Man,
at that,
look. 34, member of the Maranatha SDA Church in Miami Gardens, right?
bro? Nice.
Today we're here to talk about the birds and the bees. and
There's a lot of that going on. Yes.
let's just start with a history of like our experiences in the relationship world. Would you like to start?
So, yeah, I mean, I think I should. So, I'm single. Been single for quite some time, but there's a couple of reasons for that. But the more that I live and the more that I kind of experience when it comes to the dating market, the more I think that I will not end up with a Seventh-day Adventist wife.
All right, and I've been at a point in my life, and I'm as I said, I'm still figuring this out, but at a certain point in my life, up until about 5 years ago, I said I would not date a girl that wasn't Adventist.
Why?
To be honest with you, it was too important to my lifestyle. It was too integral to what I had experienced already, and it's impossible to transfer that experience to someone that's never had it. And I just felt like I treasured that experience so much that it was like I couldn't even imagine trying to train somebody to treasure that experience the way I did, you know. So I told myself like, hey, look, I'm gonna have to date an Adventist girl, and it didn't. A lot of them didn't go well. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like, not to say they didn't happen beautifully, but it just like I feel like we just ended up at crossroads where it was like, okay, well, you know, I might not be doing that no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not.
You said that?
I said that. You know, like I just like it got to a point where it was like, okay, I mean, that might not be part of my life anymore. You know, like I eat chicken now. You know what I'm saying? Like
if you don't like that, I ain't changing.
I mean, I've dated girls that eat Worthington Farms and Morningstar.
I mean, they not bad. Them grillers is legit,
Let
homie.
me tell you, we gotta have a
we
whole
gonna get
episode
into the
about
food part of this too,
that
but
food
it's
episode gonna be
important.
fire,
It's important though.
But you gotta understand that, like, you know, I still haven't had pork. To be honest with you, I still haven't realistically eaten pork like that. Like, I don't. It's not something I order all the time. I don't do shellfish. We, you know, as an Adventist religion,
Some
I think,
things stay in you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some things just stay in you. And I think that's one of those habits that we just never let go of. Most Adventists that I know still to this day don't eat pork. Even if you want to use an excuse and say you're allergic to it, whatever. Because I know people that, hey, they ashamed to say that they do it. You know, like, they kind of like, you know, they never had it and they don't want to eat it. And then when they go out, they be like, you don't eat pork? And they're like, you know, I'm allergic. I've heard people, literally, I've heard Adventists say they allergic, you know. But
You don't know.
Man, look, I'm open and honest with it. If somebody asks me, hey, how come you don't eat pork? I tell them it started as a religious thing, and it became just a health thing, you know. Mm-hmm. And now I watch what I eat in general, like just generally speaking. Like, I actually do a lot of fasting now, but we're not gonna get into the health subject. This is more about back to the
relationships.
Right.
That's what we're talking about in this episode here.
Yeah, I think we are in a weird space as a culture as far as growing up Adventist, looking for a relationship, because a lot of the time you're either gonna date out the religion or you're gonna date deep in the religion.
That's true.
There's almost no middle ground.
There's no middle ground. That's true.
There's almost no middle ground nowadays.
That's true.
Because the people that are still doing it our age, they're deep in it. They're like, if you're still,
especially if you go into a church, if you going to a church specifically every Saturday, you deep into it for sure.
If you're identifying as an Adventist between 25 and 35, you're deep in it, because you got to be deep in it, because that age range is missing from the church. So if you're the very few that are in that age range that are still going to church, you're gonna be deep in it. I'm talking like no wedding rings. We're talking watches on wedding day. We're talking like full celibacy till marriage day.
Yep.
We're talking about I mean, the nitty gritty. Traditional. Fully traditional. Very fully traditional.
And you're definitely right, because I mean the title of this show is Heathen Radio, you know. Yeah. So it's like, you know, I still call myself a Seventh-day Adventist, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I do that most Adventists wouldn't, and so I don't necessarily think that that's conducive to someone who who is deep in it. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to, I mean, like I said a couple episodes ago, I drink, I smoke, I cuss sometimes. I I'm out in the streets sometimes, like, you know, but it's still, but it's still in me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so, but I don't necessarily think that, I mean, I'm seeking 7 traits.
Okay,
And,
list some traits again for me.
I'm not going to list all 7.
You're not going to list all 7?
I'll tell you. So the first 3 is authentic, loyal, elegant.
Okay, all right.
Those are the first 3 that they need to have. And I can find those outside of the church. As a matter of fact, as somebody who has done a lot of things outside of the church, I find that those traits are most often attributed to people who are not in the church.
Okay.
And to some, you know, there are of course exceptions to that. I know, I'm thinking specifically of, I know somebody who identifies as a Satanist.
Interesting. Yeah. When you told about that person, yeah.
And you know, this woman is not an evil person.
Right.
But she also doesn't necessarily, going to what you said, she also doesn't necessarily get a lot of the things that I do. You know, even though I'm not necessarily the most traditional Seventh-day Adventist, there are still some things, like I said, you know, when it comes to, I don't eat bacon anything. I don't usually eat pork, I don't usually eat pork products at all.
And remember, look, we had this conversation the other day here, because I think you had an aunt and she was here and we were talking about this, and pretty much you kind of know where the line is when you're dating an Adventist. I think when you're raised Adventist, you kind of know what to expect when you're dating somebody that was raised with a similar background as you, which isn't a problem to look for somebody like that. But I think the reason why we do it is because we know that you know where the line is. You know what I'm saying? Like, people that are in the world, we have no idea where your line is. That's what I'm saying.
What governs your moral code? I don't know.
We have no idea how far you'll go.
That's true. That's true.
So it's like, yo, like, we don't know how dirty you gonna do us until it's done already. You know what I'm saying? But with an Adventist, you're like, okay, you know this is wild right here, right? And they know it's wild because, you know, like, we wasn't raised on that kind of code, you know? And so I think it's more about, they know that they're actually crossing a line, even if they cross it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's the moral code of, okay, I know I'm crossing this line, but
I'm choosing to cross it for you.
But I'm choosing to cross it. You know what? Even if not for you, for my personal learning and development, whatever. You know, like, you know that you're crossing a line. You know what I'm saying? Well, people in the world don't feel like they're crossing a line.
Well, in my experience, I'm usually more experienced when it comes to crossing lines.
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't necessarily expect somebody to. I don't expect somebody to never cross lines that they have set for themselves, but I do expect them to analyze where those lines were drawn and who influenced them to draw those lines.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because some of those lines is kind of like mean nothing.
Yeah, you can
some
wipe
of those
them,
lines mean absolutely nothing.
They be in the sand and you just like, well, who put that there? You know what I mean? Who put that line there?
I just like get here.
Like, bro, like, I ain't even out the parking lot yet, bro. Like, we got lines in the parking lot. Like, we ain't even in the venue yet, bro. Like we can't even get to the venue. Like, we got lines in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So I think, bro, like, it's just one of them things where you have to look at it as it is a lot of Adventists, and a lot of people don't want to say this, and I'll say it now because I'm grown now.
It's only the two
of us.
But
a lot of Adventists are sheltered.
Yes,
a lot of us are very sheltered.
Very.
And I think when you acknowledge that you're sheltered, it can give you some time to kind of explore things that you've always been curious. You know, as an adult, you can kind of go out and explore it. But I think a lot of us are sheltered, and I think a lot of the time when you're looking for an Adventist spouse, or you get with an Adventist spouse, like your gauge of what they're willing to do, or what they've not seen before ever, or what they've done is just, it's all over the place. So a lot of the time, it's you trying to experience new things with this partner for the first time.
Especially now. Yeah. I agree with what you're saying, and I think that that's especially true today, especially given the status of the dating market. And we can kind of get into that later. But when it comes to like those kind of things, it's like, you know, we I say we, what do I mean? Adventists definitely have a sheltered upbringing, for sure, and I think that the prevailing idea is once you get married, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's like that unlocks the key to whatever.
That's the freedom key.
Like that's the freedom key.
You know?
Once you get married, whatever. Like sex, relationship, whatever, kids, wedding, all that. Like,
but there's levels. There's levels to
yeah.
What can we call it? There's levels to conservative and liberal. You know,
of course,
there's a. I mean, if I would probably be considered far more liberal than the general saint.
Right.
General saint
from the average Adventist.
Yeah, sure. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that that a liberal a liberal Adventist lifestyle is the best foundation for a family. Because at the end of the day, that's what the church is built on. It's true. Was built on families.
Yeah, you have to understand that the church is a traditional building, and it expects traditional morals and values. And I think, and I think that's what, right. It's just you either want it or you don't. That's it. Like I think people are always like, well, you know, they're always battling as if they want it or not. Like you either want it or you don't, man. And it's just like we need to stop making these requirements for these spouses and all these things. Like if we don't really want that, because I think like the church has told us what we're supposed to want, and sometimes we don't feel like we really want that.
I don't want that.
I don't want that. And so it's like, and I think that's what kind of ventures a lot of people to date outside of the church. It's like, yo, I don't really want what they pictured me, you know, what they wrote me to have. Like I don't really want that. It's almost like an arranged marriage of sorts when you're marrying in the church. Sometimes I think a lot of people feel like that, you know, like, well, I need to like a certain type of person if I'm a keep going to church, et cetera, et cetera. As I said, it's just a life path that the church kind of promotes you to go down. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people at a certain age, they realize they don't want that life path.
A traditional life path.
And so they end up looking for non-traditional partners.
Well, we live in a non-traditional world now.
Yeah, and that's why I say you got to look at the culture of each, you know, of the country you're in. I think people don't look at the big picture enough. As I said, if you're in America, it's not a traditional culture in America.
Oh yeah, the dating market for sure is definitely non-traditional.
That's what I'm saying. It's very
definitely very non-traditional.
There are traditional aspects, but in the major.
But you don't find them traditional aspects on the market.
Even in church,
you only find them in the church.
But even
honestly,
in church, you're not even finding traditional aspects anymore. So, like, we have to argue about how much tradition do you want? You know, I think that's what we need to ask ourselves instead of asking who the person we want. Is more about how much tradition do you want? Like, do you want this girl to be a stay-at-home wife? Do you want her to cook and clean? Like, you know, like, and then you know, you have to ask, does she want a traditional guy? Like, how much tradition are you expecting from each other?
But I don't think that traditional wife is impractical today.
True, and you're right. I do think that the traditional wife is not okay. Well, let's put it this way: the traditional wife usually has multiple children, and so the traditional wife is breeding. Like they have their hands full because they probably got 2-3 kids at the house. So
I'm with you.
I mean, the argument for a traditional wife in today's day and age is for her to just stay home and take care of the kids.
Yeah, I know for sure. All right, young adults are definitely not looking for multiple kids.
Housewife. The cooking and cleaning, that's extra stuff. But the main reason they're staying at home is because they need to take care of the kids. That's what a traditional woman is in this day.
That's true. And I'm thinking back in my own family because my grandmother had 11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, the traditional woman is making kids. That's the thing. It's like the traditional woman. Factory. And I think that's the part that people are forgetting. The traditional woman has multiple children. It's not just like she's not chilling at the crib by herself. No, it's like multiple kids in the equation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they needed help back then.
Yeah.
They needed help.
And I mean, remember, it takes a village, and like if you're raising your own kids and you're not sending them to daycare every day and all that, like you need to be home.
One kid is a lot of money, though.
Yeah, one kid is a lot of money. And remember, as I said, traditional women are having 2-3 kids. They're not having just one kid. So I mean, I could consider my mom.
But that's not even. But that's not even traditional. 2 or 3 kids is not traditional.
Yeah, multiple kids.
Tradition is like hitting double digits. That's tradition.
Yeah, well, that's old tradition. I'm talking about our parents.
Okay, well then what is tradition? What is traditional? Let me ask you that.
No, and as I said,
what do you think of when you think of traditional?
It's just the.
Let me back up. Let me re-ask that question. What's a traditional family?
It's the average of what we saw, 30 years ago.
Okay, what does that family look like? I mean, it's a man and a wife.
You can pull up the statistics. Yeah, it's a man and a woman married, and
How many kids?
I think the traditional family was 2 kids, a boy and a girl, something like that. Yeah, something like that.
So
but I think
traditional family was 4 people.
Yeah, traditional family structure consists of a man, a woman, and one or more.
Study.com. Let's see. I want to look at the Pew Research Center. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, the American family today has a lot less children, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
My mom was one of like 8, or like most of our grandparents were one of like 10.
And
8,
then let's
6.
see here. I'm thinking of my parents. My brother had my dad had, I can say 6.
Yeah, like
6 or 7 siblings.
We ain't putting up the numbers now.
And then me and my sisters, just the 2 of us.
We are not putting them numbers up.
No.
We are not. You're lucky if you get 2.
Way.
You're lucky if you get 2.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know anybody with more than 2. I think I could probably count on one hand the people I know with more than 2 kids. Mm-hmm. Like right now, you know what I'm saying? Like if you think about it, my mom, by the time my mom was my age, she had 3 kids. By the time my mom was my age, she had all 3 of us.
I'm thinking the same thing. I think my parents, when they were my age, had both of us.
Yeah, so that's what I mean when I say tradition. And a lot of that is dead, as you can see, because ain't nobody breeding like that. We're not breeding. I mean, but
it's too expensive.
It's expensive, yeah. And
5 kids today? You kidding me, bro?
Economy is crazy right now. It's true. Economy is crazy. Nobody can afford it, number one. But I think, and I don't even think it's an affording thing, because I think some of our parents couldn't afford it either, to be honest with you. I don't who know. Hey, maybe they were just more horny. I don't know what the argument is.
Well, I mean, that horny don't stop when you go to the church, bro.
I'm just saying, bro. Like,
take a look at our congregations.
But remember, like, look, these people married and they can do whatever they want. Remember, that's the key. Remember we talked about earlier. Like, once you married, you do whatever you want, right? So it's like that's always been the Adventist code. Is like once you're married, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. As long as it's your wife, you can do whatever you want.
Well, okay. So let's talk about it. Like that is definitely something that has changed. Is the advent of the sexual revolution?
Yeah.
Like it used to be you didn't have sex until you were married. Now it's every man and woman for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people are just looking at the examples of people that are telling them not to do it and realizing that they didn't follow that example. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see what you mean.
A lot of people are like, well, wait.
They're looking at their grandparents like, yo, wait a minute, you had 11.
Like they you know, it's crazy. It's just I think kids are realizing like, yo, like our parents didn't follow it. Why are we following it? And I think it's this massive exodus of just like, why am I doing that?
But I don't think we have it. I don't think we have it better though.
What do you mean?
I don't think that sexual freedom has made our families stronger or the market better.
It hasn't. I mean, traditionally, you know what to expect. That's the thing. When you're non-traditional like that, and you're not getting married, and you're sleeping with people, and there's kids coming out of nowhere, and you know there's no commitment with the person you had the kid with, the structure looks a lot different.
That happens. That's now.
I know.
But the flip side of that coin is because the problem that I run into when it comes to the ones that are in it, like we were talking about before, is suppression. It's like how do I say this? So I have from what I've heard, the prevailing knowledge of I'll say females in our church was abstinence. That was the strategy.
Oh yeah,
that was 100%. The strategy.
100% of my church.
That was okay until fast forward 20 years later, and now we have 33 forms of birth control. So now there are other options. Yet I think our church still preaches abstinence as the only option. Yeah. Which I mean, it goes back to stuff that we talked about in our previous episodes about, how the church is not necessarily adapting to the changing cultural circumstances, but my parents were met and married and 2 kids by the time they were my age.
Yeah, man.
So I don't know what that means. What do I think that means? I think that means that if optimally, I would probably like to find a Seventh-day Adventist wife, but I'm not gonna find her in a church because I go to YouTube SDA. So I'm gonna have to find her out in the world.
That's the problem, is that like there's no central place to find them anymore. Because people 25 or 35 are not going in that building anymore. A lot of us are not. And I mean, to be in our defense, a lot of people are going in that building that are our age, but they're only going to volunteer in the church. Like they're singing, they're playing an instrument.
They're not looking for mates,
etc. I mean, they might be looking for mates, but that's the only place you're gonna find. That's the only way you're gonna find a guaranteed person to come every Sabbath is if they're playing an instrument, they're singing, they're in charge of what, I don't know, they're doing Sabbath, they're doing children's story that day. You know, like if they're not volunteering in the church, you're not gonna find them there, man. You're not gonna find them there. I think what we've expected to see in the church has drastically changed in the last 3 years. In the last 3 years,
you mean we as bachelors?
Adventists. No, as just Adventists in general. I think like we all did this as kids, as teenagers. I don't know about y'all, but as I said, even in my early 20s, I knew I wanted an Adventist girl, and I felt like, well, maybe she's not at my church, so I started going to other churches. Let me tell you something. I started going to other churches.
Maybe you see what the crop is like over here on this church. I ain't mad at that.
And I think that's what some of us weren't willing to do. It's just like, all right, well, I ain't see it at this church. I'm done. Nah, and it's like, yo, there's thousands of churches all over the world. It's like, and I don't think like people are looking deep in that. And I think it's the easiest, just how you can go to a club and there's 100 people there. You go to a church and there's 100 people there. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like people think that the club and the church is like completely different, like experiences to meet people. Like, no. You can meet people in either place.
Yeah, well, then why meet them at church?
Well, as I said, you know what their line is. You know what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Well, you can assume their line. Okay, you're right. You don't know. You're right. You don't know, but you can assume what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do.
Well,
you can assume what they were taught was their line.
I think that okay, right. That may be true. That may be true. What they have the same teaching as we do.
Right.
But they don't got the same lines.
Yeah, well, it don't matter if they follow it or not. You just know that we were told to do the same thing. Yeah. You know what you're doing when you're not doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like as I said, it's a moral conscious. It doesn't matter if they follow it or not. It's just the fact that they know that they were told that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that was my like safe space when I was dating Adventist girls. Was like, okay, they know that we were taught this, even if they're not following it.
Well,
as I said, you would assume that they have a moral conscience if they're not following what they're taught. You know what I'm saying? And it's an assumption. You're right. It's only an assumption.
Yeah, and but I don't think that it's an accurate assumption anymore. Especially, and I'm thinking specifically when it comes to non-Adventists.
Okay.
Because in my experience, they got lines too.
Right.
And it takes longer to determine who drew those lines and why they were drawn. Mm-hmm. But there are still lines out there. But the non-Adventist women still have lines.
No, they do.
And so which in my experience was essentially, once I realized that, I was like, yo, then there's more females outside of the church than inside of the church. So
I mean, just numbers alone, yeah,
right. So if I know that if I know that they all got lines, then why limit myself to just the church? Which is why I, kind of think that eventually I'm gonna find her outside of the church.
As I said, I'm not against either side. I'm not against finding her in the church or out the church. I think either way works for me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think like, and not to say I don't have a preference. And you're right. I think you can find out what anybody's line is after talking to them for a little bit. I mean, after a couple seconds, I can find out if somebody's like.
Yeah, if you asking the right questions, you can know it real quick.
You're gonna figure out real quick. That's what I'm saying. So you don't need the church for the lines. You know what I'm saying? I think it's more of a lifestyle that I'm looking for when it's an Adventist thing. It's more of a lifestyle that I'm adapted to.
A clean lifestyle.
Yeah, and sometimes explaining your lifestyle is the hard part. Maybe explain, and I don't even expect anyone to follow the lifestyle I was raised with.
No.
Because I don't even fully follow that lifestyle anymore.
Yeah.
But I expect them to at least understand it. And a lot of the people that are not Adventists, they have a hard time understanding it. Yeah, and it's just and as I said, my number one thing when I'm looking for any mate, spouse, whatever, is just open-mindedness. It doesn't matter if you're Adventist or not. You have to understand, like, hey, look, this is the way I was raised. Even if I don't follow it all the way, there's some things that I'm still gonna be tapped into that you're just gonna have to understand. And bro, like, I think, and it's like, I'm tired of people giving this cookie cutter dating advice to everybody when everybody knows.
It's so bad,
bro. It's so bad because everybody knows what they need.
It's so bad,
bro. It's just like and the problem is why people giving this cookie cutter advice and people are actually following it like idiots is because they don't know who they are. Once you know who you are, you know what you want, you know what works for you, you know what doesn't. But if you don't know what you are, you don't know who you are, you're gonna make this superficial list that everybody else made of things that you want in a spouse, whatever, 6 foot. 6 figures, 6 pack,
get out of there,
whatever. You know
get
what I'm
out
saying?
of there.
Like, it's gonna be a bunch of superficial lists that somebody made that you just adopted. And I think we need to start making our own lists of things that what's
important to us.
Yeah, what's important to us. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what people's problem is. They even spend enough time with themselves. And so when they look for a spouse, they don't know what they're looking for. That
is definitely true, bro.
That's
most people don't spend, and that's speaking as somebody who is kind of on the I'll say secular dating market. That is definitely the case where it's like they were told to want a guy with money, and so they look for a guy with money. You ask a couple of questions, it's like, yo, sweetheart, you don't even know what you want. Yeah. You just know what you heard you're supposed to want.
Anybody that's too sure on what they want is already a red flag. Anybody that has a list is already a red flag. I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. No, I mean, I have a list, but my list is very vague. My list is very vague.
I agree with that.
But even your list is very vague too.
My list is specific.
But your list is mostly character traits. It's character traits.
What that because
it's not numbers and figures and like this and that. Like, I mean, like it's character traits. It's character traits.
Right, but it's specific.
It's very it's
specific character traits.
It's vaguely specific.
Like I don't care what she makes or what she does, or I mean, truthfully, I don't really care how old she is or where she's from or any of that stuff. Saying, you know, it's because it's the spirit part that I'm looking for.
Exactly, but a lot of people aren't dating for that because it's hard to see that part if you don't know yourself.
That's true.
It's hard to see that part if you don't know yourself.
That's true.
Okay, if you don't know yourself, you're gonna look for the fake stuff.
The flesh.
You're gonna look for the flesh. If you don't know your spirit internally, you don't know what's gonna work with your spirit. So it's like you're just gonna look for stuff on the surface. You know, you're gonna really surface level relationships is what you're gonna have. To be honest with you,
superficial. That is definitely a lot of superficial relationships.
There's a lot of superficial. Like, bro, I saw a video the other day. People didn't know they girl birthday and stuff like that. Like, bro,
what?
Like, yeah, like craziness, bro. Like, you ain't seen that video where they interview couples on the street and these people didn't know like each other's birthday and like, bro, like I mean anniversaries and just like they didn't know their mom's name and stuff like that, like their spouse's mother's name and stuff like just random, bro. Like,
yo, that'd be important to me. I need to know your birthday because I need to know what your sign is. I need to know what your sign is.
The first question you ask somebody with
yes,
their birthday
sir.
Is, it's like, bro,
yes, sir.
Bro, but it's funny because
you an air sign, huh?
Yeah, but even talking about the signs, a lot of. And it's funny because everybody our age subscribes to this, you know, horoscopes and the signs and all that. But
right, but that's a superficial understanding of what they are.
But our parents were terrified of it. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, that's true. That's witchcraft.
That's witchcraft, boy. What you mean? What you mean Aries? What you mean Aries? That's witchcraft. What you mean? Like God don't believe in that, and it's just like, all right, okay. And it's funny because a lot of people are coming around to it now. A lot of people are like reading the descriptions of the personality types of their sign and like, oh shoot, that do sound like me. You know what I'm saying? Or they reading up about their spouse who's a certain sign and like, oh shoot, that do sound like him or that do sound like her. Yeah. So I think people are starting to wake up. To it now.
my parents were a fire sign and a water sign, and they bred 2 earth signs.
See, that ain't even supposed to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't even supposed to work.
I mean, it did though.
Your mom was fire?
It did though. Yeah, my mother's an Aries.
Yeah, see that's why I get along with you.
And it works. And like once you really like, that's like because horoscopes don't necessarily mean anything. It's the substance of them that makes the difference. That's why I don't even ask people what their sign is. I ask them what their birthday is because like we get so caught up on being a Capricorn or a Sagittarius or whatever that it's like, yo, that's the frosting on the top. That ain't even the cake. That ain't even the crust. That's just the superficial part. So, you know, and the more I, you know, because like we talked about God not too long ago, and like because I believe that God is all things, I believe that you can get knowledge from all things. Like you can get like the Most High speaks directly to you from the knowledge that you get. You know, so it's like, you know, if I'm like, this is gonna sound wild to say, but like I don't typically align very well with air signs. Like they just typically too flighty for me. And honestly, most of the time I don't really like fire signs much either.
Yeah, cause we blunt. Y'all can't handle the truth. That's the problem. Y'all can't. If you can't handle the truth, don't be around us.
Flighty.
Nah, but we move a lot, man. We move a lot.
And that's not a.
We're passionate people though.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. It's just like it. But if you don't, if you see horoscopes as witchcraft and you don't dig deeper into the substance of them, then it's easy to ignore all that stuff.
Yeah.
When it's like, nah, that information needs to inform who you seek as a mate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use it as a guideline per se, but you know, it's one of those things that I don't ask until I feel like there's a spark there.
I'll be asking early.
I don't ask too early.
I ask a lot of questions early. One of the questions.
Unless they ask me first, I'm not even really getting into it like that.
What's do you believe in magic? That's the first question I ask.
Really?
Yeah. Do you believe in magic? That's the very first
See,
question.
magic is such a general term, man.
That's the whole point.
It's
bro.
almost like the term God, like we talked about. Magic is just like
that's
okay.
the second question. Do you believe in God? Actually,
Yeah.
do you believe in the Bible is the second question. Do you believe in God is usually the third question.
I mean,
And
like,
honestly, and they're hard questions, but
Right,
but
like-
it goes back to what you were saying that like most people don't even know the answers to those questions.
all right, like on a dating app. Let's say you scroll on a dating app, and this is just fully
Okay.
hypothetical.
Hit
And
me.
you come against a girl, whatever
Uh-huh.
she like. I don't know. She's 31 years old, whatever.
Okay.
And you know she lives locally.
Uh-huh.
She has just like God in her
Okay.
description.
Uh-huh.
It's like strong believer of God. If you don't believe in God, keep swiping. Whatever,
Okay.
et cetera,
Yep.
right?
We
You
seen
see
those.
one of those girls,
We
right?
seen those.
You see one of those girls.
Uh-huh.
And you look at hobbies, and she's like reading Bible and
Yeah.
all this, like right. Like how are you gonna like that? Or
If she start with God, I'll swipe right on her. But my first question is going to be, do you believe in the Bible? And if she says yes, my second question is just the New Testament or all of it?
So what if your first date turns into Bible study?
I mean,
Indirectly.
I've been reading the Bible, so if she's trying to have a Bible study, I got some verses that's gonna blow her mind. If she ain't read the whole Bible,
But you understand if she's that deep into the Bible, she's gonna be on.
if she believes in it, then she has to believe the words that it says, and the words say that God is both God. That both good and evil come from the Most High.
And you have to understand that there's a culture around people that believe in the Bible that hard. You
Okay,
know,
that's fine. But if you believe in the Bible that hard, then you have to believe in the words. And the words say straight up that both good and evil come from the Most High. And if you don't believe that, then you don't believe in the
I get it,
Bible.
but
And if that's the case, then that's a bigger problem.
But they're pertaining to the relationship, and they're saying that only like and it's funny because in the dating profile they'll also say looking for a serious partner, not about no jokes. You know what I mean? They always put the whole spiel in there. You know what I mean? Not looking for nothing like silly. I want a serious partner, et cetera, et cetera. And then she got God all in the bio. Like you could tell she's looking for marriage, right? In the most traditional sense, she wants to get married. Are you still gonna swipe?
Yeah, I want to get married.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like you could tell that that's all she's interested in.
Okay, well then
She doesn't want nothing but to get married.
Well, I mean, yeah. The answer to your question is yes. I absolutely do swipe, but I absolutely do swipe.
Okay.
And my first question is, do you believe in the Bible?
Okay.
My second question is, all of it or just the New Testament?
And you sit down with her on the first date, and she says, "You have 6 months. If you don't marry me within the first 6 months, we're dating."
I need to know. I mean, truthfully,
Right, but she's in her 30s, so she's ready to go.
I mean, truthfully, if that's the case, and she say that she want to get married in 6 months, I mean, that's okay. But we gonna have to have some real conversations in them first 6 months.
But let's say she actually cool. Let's say you get to like 5 months, and it's like, oh, she's pretty cool. But you're not like ready to marry her yet. But you're like, oh, this has been going good.
She'll get a title. She'll get it if she really about it. She'll get a title in 3 months, and then she might get a ring in 6 months.
Okay.
But she gotta know herself. That's the thing.
Yeah, because
most, I mean, you heard the very first thing on my list, bro. Authentic. You got to be authentic.
Yeah.
If you fake, I don't even want it.
Yeah.
I don't even want it. And it's hard to be authentic when you don't really know the answers to them questions.
Yeah, and I think a lot of and it's scary to say, but it's true. I mean, a lot of not even scary to say, but it's the facts that we're all in our 30s now. And I don't think we've ever seen a generation of people dating this hard in our 30s. Some people have given up on it. Some people have, tied that knot already. And some people are just trying to still figure it out. Keep it 100. And a lot of people are giving up on marriage. or B, getting married to the wrong person.
That's definitely
or
a lot
C,
of people.
just opting out of getting married and having kids too on top of that. Like, there's just so many different situations that we're seeing nowadays that, I mean, I'm sure we saw them back in the day in our parents' generation, but I guarantee most people were married by the time they were 30.
You think it's better now?
I think we're trying to figure something. I think what happened is people got married for economical reasons back in the day, and I don't think we're doing that anymore. I think people got married because of the economy they were trying to build with their partner. I think I think a lot of our parents got married for money reasons, believe it or not.
Well, I mean, there's
especially if you're an immigrant parent, a lot of them were coming and getting married to people for financial reasons.
Well, there's a benefit to combining incomes.
Yeah, of course.
A real one.
Yeah, of course.
So what about you? If you find some chick on a dating app, she says she want to be wife in 6 months, you swiping right?
No, I'm not gonna swipe right. Because as I said, anybody that like, yo, I'm not gonna swipe right. I'm gonna actually, that same profile I gave you, I swipe right past it. I'm gonna keep 100. That same profile I gave you.
Why? What's the flag? What's the red flag for you?
I like, all right, and okay. See, and it's not even a red flag. It's just like people are so aggressive with, and I get it. You're supposed to be aggressive with what you want. I get it. But I think some people miss good things when they're so focused on the wrong thing or the other thing, or like, this is not the thing I'm looking for, and they're so quick to move on to the next thing.
You think marriage is that thing, or the timeline is that thing?
No, and I do think that at a certain age you need to be focused on fully. If you want marriage, you need to be fully focused on marriage.
Sure.
And if somebody's not talking about marriage out the gate, then you probably need to move on.
So it's the timeline that's the flag for you.
No, I think it's the time. If you say within 6 months.
What about if it's in 1 year? What if it's 12 months?
No, it's doable. That's definitely doable. But I think, as I said, as we talked about earlier, I think people say things that they don't really mean. I think people say things that other people were told that they need to do.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And I think people's surroundings kind of affect them too. Like, if you're in a group with people and everybody's in their 30s around you and they're all married, you're gonna feel like, oh, I'm late to the party. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna feel like, oh, well, dang, I need to do this now. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not deny that the pressure of what people do around us is gonna affect us. Let's not fake and say, like,
it definitely does. And your environment definitely does shape your
priorities
standards.
And your standards.
Your environment does shape your standards.
It does. So let's not act like if everybody's married around you, you're not gonna want to get married. That's just the way the cookie crumbles.
But if everybody's single around you, you think you're gonna want to stay single?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if everybody pregnant around you, guess what's gonna happen?
Uh-oh.
All right.
Get out.
Exactly.
Get out of there, bro.
I'm just saying, like, yo.
No, you're right though.
I think them circles are kind of affecting what we in our 30s do, because I know a lot of guys that got married in their late 20s, early 30s. Everybody around them also was married. Like, we know a lot of Oakwood dudes that just got married.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, got out of Oakwood, got married right away. Like, some of them got married while they were still at Oakwood in their early 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah.
25, 26.
That definitely happened. That definitely happened, especially in the later years.
Yeah, and a lot of those marriages are still lasting, believe it or not. Like, a lot of those are. The
ones that I can think of off the top of my head, they going strong.
Yeah, they're going pretty strong. You know what I'm saying? So there is a power to knowing what you want early. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not to say that, like, they missed out on anything, and I think that's the problem with a lot of people, is they feel like they're missing out. So they don't want to get married. They don't want to get married right away. They feel like they're missing out on, experiencing life. And as an Adventist, that's a good argument, because as an Adventist, you feel like you haven't seen life. You feel like you haven't seen everything. Like, you feel like there's a lot of times, don't tell me, as an Adventist, you don't feel like, well, dang, I didn't even get to do that, this, that.
Well, I definitely missed out on a couple of things, but it wasn't relationships. It was
experiences, I'm sure.
Yeah, experiences. Yeah. That's more like what it was.
Yeah. But as I said, I've dated Adventist girls, and a lot of the experiences are missing sometimes. Like, they've never done this, they've never done that. They don't even want to try this. It feels inexperienced, and I'm not even talking about sexually. I'm just talking about life experience.
Yeah,
like, because a lot of times when you break off of Adventism, you kind of have to go on your own pilgrimage to find out what you like,
it is, what you actually think.
You're told what you like up until, like, you're 18, 19, 20, whatever you decide you want to venture out from the church and figure things out. Like, you're told what you want up until that time. Yeah, and so if you don't take that time to really get serious and find out what you want, you're kind of going to still be expecting something that you did 10 years ago, that might not be out there, or it's out there, but it's hard to find, And so you have to know what you want. That's the bottom line comes down to this. Once you know who you are and what you want, it's easy to date. It's easy to date.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what's for you. You know what's not.
That's true. Well, I'm not gonna say it's easy to date, but it becomes very easy to identify what's not for you.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what you know is for you is knowing what's not for you. It's actually easier to find out what's not for you. Than what's
I
for
agree
you.
with you on that.
Yeah, it's way easier. It's way easier. But either way, you're gonna have to go out there and figure that out. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of eventers have a hard time going out there and figuring it out.
Well, it's especially the longer that you're in it, the scarier it is. Once you make the decision to leap.
And the less experience once you leap, you know, that's another thing too. It's like if you don't even know what's going on out there and you want to try it and you no experience in it, you're gonna leap it. You're gonna hit your head easy.
Well, I mean, experienced ain't one of the ain't one of the 7 traits that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, I'm just being honest with you.
What do you mean experience? Like life experience?
I don't necessarily when it comes to me, I expect to be the one with more experience, with more life experience, just because of the places I've been and the things I've done and all that kind of stuff. You know, I kind of expect to be that, but I don't necessarily expect that from her.
Okay. So like, I don't want to say it like
go for it.
Nah, I was gonna say something wild. Like, cause like, how dumb do you want her to be? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Not dumb, inexperienced.
Yeah, but how naive?
I do want a little bit of naivete, honestly. I want a little naivete. Okay. Probably like what percentage? I want her to be like 30% naive.
So why?
Because it's fun to see somebody experience something for the first time.
Okay, that is an argument. Or
it's exciting. It's like oh, you think you know?
Oh, yeah, no, it is, but
it's like I lived in Vegas for 7 years.
Yeah.
I would love to take somebody to Vegas for the first time.
Yeah, bro, it's beautiful to be able to teach somebody something they've never done before, right? And the thing is, it's funny, in relationships, I like to do that too. But what I like even more than that is both of us figuring it out for the first time. You know what I'm saying? I think that trumps it to me more than anything else. Like if neither of us have been to Vegas ever, and we say, "Hey, I want to go to Vegas," and neither of us have been there, I think that is more joy for me than trying to just show somebody through the ropes.
No, I don't think so. Cause I mean, I can see that for you, but that would not be the funnest thing for me. That would not be the best thing for me because I think because for my own life, it's incredibly frustrating to seek guidance, look around and realize that nobody knows.
Okay.
You know, it's like that is super frustrating to me, you know? So, you know, maybe that means that, you know, maybe that means that I need to determine, you know, to find people who are, you know, at a different level that are more experienced than I am. But at the same time, it's like sometimes when I find those people, it's like, yo, you may not actually know the answer, you know? And so I don't know. I don't trust very easily either when it comes to experience. You know, okay. I typically try to learn through doing things, optimally doing them a couple of different times.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question. Does a woman's independence turn you off?
I don't think it turns me off. I don't think it turns me off, but it definitely does not do anything for me.
Okay, so what level of independence would you consider a turn off?
You need to be an adult. Anything. Okay. You need to know how to balance your own budget. Okay. You need to know, like your expenses need to be lower than your income. Right. Anything over that is bonus. Okay. To me.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
Why?
I'm just trying to figure this out. No, because I we talked about this before, and it's gonna get deep here.
Go for
because, yo, like lot of women are independent. As I said, we have to look at our.
Oh yeah, they don't need no man.
But no, we have to look at our parents. As I said, a lot of our parents got married for financial reasons. They realized they needed a man. Yeah, they realized it was.
They needed a family.
There was a lot of like financial security and economic stability to be in a dual income family household, et cetera, et cetera. They did it for the big picture. A lot of our parents did it for the big picture. And I mean, a lot of people will argue that our generation is selfish. And they've been calling us selfish for years now. They've been calling us selfish for decades now. Like 2 decades now, they've been calling
we have
millennials
barely
selfish.
anything.
Because they don't think that we're reaching for like a common cause. They don't think we're doing this for a group structure. Like, I don't think we're looking for like families in this day and age. I mean, they're looking at both sides of the coin. They're looking at the men don't want, these independent women. The independent women don't want the men. It's just this it's this big war that is stirred up. I would say probably in the mid '90s. That's been going on since then. I watched some people's parents. I watched some of my parents go through it. Where we're not getting married for financial reasons anymore. We're not getting married for economical reasons anymore. Like the structure of relationships in America is not traditional like what it used to be.
So what do you think people are getting married for now?
I think they're looking at what they could get out of it. Like, but not necessarily. And don't get me wrong, there's girls out there that are still looking for financial stability. There's girls out there that still want the traditional thing. But I think they just want somebody to like love them in their love language. I think is what it is. I think they want it's more based on personality traits and consistency now. Consistency, I think, is the number one thing. I think people just want somebody consistent, which is getting harder and harder to find because everybody's wired up to everybody else.
That's definitely true.
It's hard to want to be consistent with one person when it's like, yo, 18 people are hitting you up every day.
I'm about to say it's easier to move on to the next one.
And not even necessarily that. It's just like the amount of energy you take to talk to 12 people a day. It's like, dang, it almost feels like another person.
Job. That's another job, bro.
And I don't know, maybe this is me just being old speaking like this because maybe, I don't know, maybe in my 20s I had the energy for it, but in my 30s it's like, I have the energy to speak to 2-3 people a day max. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. And it's just like,
and one of them probably family.
Yeah,
one of them got to be family.
right. And as I said, a lot of people are looking at gain. Like, what am I getting out of it? Like, if they're not gonna give me nothing, like, what am I even wasting my time for? You know what I'm saying? So I think people want to know, like, what can you do for me? Before they even entertain you, and not even just financially, just like emotionally, mentally, like, and I think people are falling. I think some people are asking for too much, and some people aren't asking for enough. And I think we just have this weird. And I really want. I want this. I'm so ready for this to be over, so we could do a study on it and figure out what the heck the real problem was. Because we're in it live now, and I think it's too hard to tell like why there are so many single people in their 30s. Especially Adventists. I mean, there's some people that are married, but there's a good chunk of us that are single.
Sex is the problem. That's what I think. It's too easy.
You like the premarital part? Easy. You think that's what it is?
It's too. Just sex in general is too easy to get. It's too, especially as an exceptional man. It's like if like what. This is an old saying. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free?
Man, look.
Why would you do that? And like men didn't make the market this way. Women did.
Man, look, I was listening to Dr. Umar Johnson this weekend, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
That man wild.
But he's a Prince of Pan-Africanism.
That man wild.
Yeah, crazy dude. He's up there with the Kevin Samuels and all of them, if you ask me, right? He had a Q&A. This is live, by the way. I was with this guy all day on Saturday. I was shooting an event that he did in Miami. That's why I couldn't come to the Sabbath lunch, by the way, because I had to shoot Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yikes.
I'm there, and he did a Q&A afterwards, and a girl, raised her hand and asked a question. She said, Dr. Umar, what do you think we should do about relationships in this day and age? And the answer he gave me was so surprising, though. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This guy said that the women need to come together and have a talk about poly relationships because a lot of y'all are sharing anyways. Bro, and he said it just like that. And bro, the room got quiet, dog. And I was like, Dr. Umar, relax. He's like, no. He's like, we need to have a talk about it because a lot of y'all women are sharing anyways. And he's like, it's not because men are dogs. He's just saying there's a lack of good ones out there. And he's like, there's not a shortage of black men in America. There's a shortage of he's like, there's not a shortage of black men in the world. There's a shortage of black men in America. And he was trying to tell this girl, like, yo, maybe you should go and date internationally. Maybe you need to leave America and find somebody else. But ain't nobody trying to do that. Ain't nobody trying to travel and go meet their spouse and all that. Like, ain't nobody trying to do all that.
Men are. I'm just saying.
Ain't nobody trying to do all that. And people have responsibilities here. They don't want to uproot their life to go somewhere and live with somebody. Like it's just not. It's not realistic for most
Well, that's
people.
what happens when you're independent. It's hard to focus on finding somebody else when you've got your own life.
Yeah.
When you got roots.
And it's true. If you can't find something here, then maybe somewhere else is the answer. But
sure,
people were not trying to hear what this guy was saying.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, that's hard. And not only is it hard, that's scary to go to an entirely new country to find somebody else to date. Yo, are you kidding me?
I mean, cause you got to think about it. We're talking about the line with eventism, right? Like we're talking about the line. We're talking about a whole other line when you're dating somebody outside of your country.
Yeah,
because they have a whole other line as far as
they got a whole other culture, bro.
They got a whole other culture. So what they're used to is completely different than what they're used to. So I mean, a lot of people are not trying to put in that work and try to find that middle ground with that person. It's just not realistic for most people.
It definitely is work.
It's work.
It definitely is work. That's true.
It's definitely more work than if you just went to somebody at your job that you saw every day and just started dating them, which I would highly recommend not doing.
Well, I can say from my own family that most of them found each other either at school, church, or work.
Yeah, I mean it's convenient. Most people go to school, church, or work and find a person there.
Well, I mean, that's when we spend most of our time.
Yeah.
School, church, and work.
It's easy. Yeah. It's easy to date somebody from your job. And it's funny, I said this. Mm-hmm. If I like somebody from my job that much, I'll quit the job. Just to date that person. I'm sick. And that's back to sacrifice.
I ain't met nobody yet that I'll quit a job.
But if you like that person that much and everybody says don't date who you work, everybody says it. But people do it all the time.
Don't dip your pen in the company.
People do it all the time, man. And it's just like I told myself, I made a promise of myself. If I like somebody that much on a job, I will quit that job.
Dang,
to date this person. I'm serious. I will find another job.
She gotta have at least 5 of the 7 traits.
I will trade departments in the company just so I don't gotta work with them next to them. Just so it's not a conflict of interest. Like I will literally leave a job if I like somebody that much.
How much you gotta like her?
No, just to leave a job. That's how much I'm gonna like it. If I really like her that much, I will leave a job.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
No, I'm saying it's got to be closer to a 10. If I like her that much to leave a job,
8? You leave a job
at least a solid 8. Yeah, at least a solid 8. And I probably gotta hate the job too.
I gotta kind of not like the job.
I gotta say the job is trash too. But I always believe that you should never date nobody at your work, man. You should never date nobody at your workplace.
Not if you're trying to really be. Not if you're trying to If you're trying to move up climb the corporate ladder, definitely not. No, definitely not. But I mean, if you don't care nothing about that job, if you care more about the person than the job, you should absolutely date somebody at work.
Yeah, but then you should quit the job then.
That's a good point.
You should quit the job. What? Why would you date somebody that you go see at work every day? That just to me it's like no brainer. Like quit the job, find you another job because
that's gonna get messy. When you find another person.
Yeah, but that's gonna get messy real quick. Nah, I mean, and sometimes you ain't trying to find no other person. I'll find another job before I find another person.
That's a good point.
If you ask me, I'd rather go find another job.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It's definitely easier to find a job than a person.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and then that's one thing we don't talk about enough, and it seems like a hopeless romantic, but it's true. If you find somebody that you really think is going to work, you should be able to give up whatever for them. And that's back to my sacrifice again. Love equals sacrifice. It's just back to that point again.
No, that's you.
If you love this person, you're willing to sacrifice whatever job.
Well, yes, but they don't mean the same thing. But anyway, I'll give it to you. You kind of right. You close. But
usually with one, you find an example of the other. With love, you're always gonna find an example of sacrifice, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, Heathen Radio. You can find me. My name is Andrew again. You can find me at. Find me on Instagram, Legend of Andrew. Anywhere else you find me, I gotta know you.
Yeah, my name is Matt. Find me on the streets. No, I'm just playing. I don't be on the streets like that. I don't be on the streets like that. But if you know where to find me, you gonna find me though. Yeah, because I be in certain rooms. But yeah, at mb.j. This is Heathen Radio.